retractors are a big deal. It seems like a minor item, but it's not a minor item. We're talking about usefulness and functionality, reliability, and flexibility. When this cable gets damaged, sometimes we have to replace the whole charger. If I leave it on the floor long enough, this guy's gonna drive over it, somebody will. We need to stop this. And originally, there were very few chargers. Now, as time gone on, we're getting much more of a market for it, and people are looking to see this as an item to be able to sell. The charging, of course, is important, but as we move through, the retractors become more important. Whatever we can do to make the industry better, to make things more reliable, have a better user experience, that's the goal. I wanted to show you these retractors. This is where we have challenges. This car is plugged in just over here. The charger's just over here. So actually, it wouldn't be necessary to retract anything, which tells me that this retractor this is the way it was sitting when this guy came. So when it's sitting like this, we get the cable on the floor. Sometimes this gets dirty and what have you. The cable's sitting pretty well in here, so that's good. This is a newer unit. The knuckle is matched to the size of the cable. It's not moving. It's got a bit of a swivel on it. So those are helpful things, except it's really not doing what it needs to do, which is when this person finishes, it should retract back up, keep it off the floor. They'll put it in here and we're done. If I give this a little tug, that's what it needed to release. And you see, even if there's no strain whatsoever, there was no necessity. So I know this wasn't retracted before. They're really just interested in charging their car and that's it. This is what we're trying to get away from. It's very challenging. Having a bit too much tension is a problem. Not enough tension is a problem. Also, the angle that it pulls at, when it only comes out the bottom, if the pull is out this way, the more compact you can have it and the more things you can have built into it, the more options you have in the way that it can be used. This is the way it should be. And had this been just the other retractors, this would have been perfectly simple. So hopefully we won't touch anything here and we'll let this guy finish his charging. While I was over here, I saw this guy pull out. You see this bundled up mess with the cable tangled in here? He put it back away. In the meantime, what's he supposed to do? Is it his responsibility that this is all bungled through here and everything? This is what happens. All this tangling up. Whose responsibility is this supposed to be to fix? We need to stop this. If I leave it on the floor long enough, this guy's going to drive over it. Somebody will. When this cable gets damaged, I can tell you that it's very hard to replace just the cable. Sometimes we have to replace the whole charger. Sometimes it becomes an issue. So retractors are a big deal. That's all I can tell you.
Of course, there are many ways retracting can be done. Here are some examples of EV charging systems that use weighted retractors, support arms, and in some cases, no retractor at all. So while we're talking about the idea of retractors, it occurred to me to show you something else. This gigantic thing is an MCS connector that is used to charge very high power to trucks. This cable is enormously heavy and there's no retraction here. That's an interesting thing. What's happened here is that the cable is exactly sized as big as it needs to be to reach into the truck. So this whole thing is a combination. The MCS connector and the positioning in the truck is part of a system so that the cable doesn't have to be long. This is probably the ideal arrangement. And we have this in some of the downtown garages where we put in, I think 60 chargers in one garage and 20 chargers in another. Everything positioned and just a small cable, no cable management, not laying on the floor. And that's an option as well. One of the things I really like is a weighted retractor. So in actuality, what happens is as we pull this out, there's not a spring in here, but there's a weight that runs down inside the pedestal. And then that weight can be managed to try to keep this just exactly what you need. This works out quite well. We have this sort of similar system in the back of our shop. The one thing about it, these tend to be pretty reliable because it's a question of simplicity, right? There's just a weight coming over top of a pulley. This is absolutely an option. We have installed this in a few different locations already. They seem to be working fine. Again, reliability and flexibility. So this is a Tritium DC fast charger. This has a massive cable. I mean, I don't know that you could pick this cable up off the floor all that easily. This is harder to handle, but
the problem needs to be solved. When we don't know where the cable's going to get into the car and we need flexibility, we need a longer cable. And then when you have a cable this big, you have to figure out how to manage it. This is what's happening now with some of the DC fast chargers. This is a pretty gigantic piece of equipment. Again, we have these large cables. So this is what's going to be important. We're going to need to have large cables because we want to dispense power quickly. Now that we have large cables, we have a new problem of managing it. So this is kind of unique, right? The arm will come out. So I suppose this depends on where the car is. So there's no retraction. It's just helping, the arm is helping you to manage it. You only have to lift this sort of half the cable. So depending on how the car was positioned and where the charging port would be, this might be a perfectly reasonable thing, and it goes back pretty well. I just want to point out that this is an important thing. The charging, of course, is important. But as we move through, the retractors become more important. We don't have dozens of different manufacturers of gasoline pumps. There's just one or two. Some of these places, it's a long play for them. They're still looking 5 or 10 years out to how this is going to organize itself. So the big players are willing to work on it. This is sort of, I would say, new entrant. We were well aware of Kempower. They've been around for a while. Pretty interesting, reliable system. We spoke about them before, but I wanted to focus just on the cable management. Here's a different idea. This has a spring instead. Some of these have been deployed across the 401 here in Ontario. This is something that I think that Kempower thinks this is going to be more reliable over time. As soon as you start into a spring and a cable, there's a lot of points of possible points of failure. Interesting how it'll be in winter, how this cable is going to manage. But the manufacturer tested this in cold weather before it's worked. So another very interesting option. So here's another manufacturer similar to the Kempower that is managing a very large cord, again with a spring idea, instead of having to have a retractor. These are massive cables. You really need a very specific retractor to be able to manage this. So a couple of people have adopted the spring idea. This clearly is one of the options for cable management. Here's another example of a sort of a hybrid situation. This feels like it's a weighted retractor inside, but it's got a stop. And it seems to pretty much reliably come back. The problem is we're having a hard time getting the drivers to understand that they have to do this when they're done. They seem happy enough to put the cable back in. I wonder if we just sort of weighted this a little bit better and eliminated the stop, that would work out. This is another issue that, by the way, that we're finding is the cable sticking out. When we get this cable sticking out a little too far, sometimes the cars are hitting it, and where it needed to be protected with bollards, now it has to be protected with bollards 6 more inches out. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have a parking space in a vehicle, every bit of that space is important. This is the similar charger that we have at our office with a weighted retractor. Ours is just a little higher than this. It gives us a little more range. ChargePoint's been around for a long time. We worked with ChargePoint for quite a while. They're very innovative. So something interesting in this one that I want to show you, something they're just bringing out, is this combination of, do I have sort of the NACS connector or the CCS connector, the one that goes into the Tesla, or the one that goes into a standard that we become to expect. And to wrap things up, let's head into our shop where we keep a range of retractors to test and compare. So we're back in the back of our shop, and I just wanted to show you that while we have chargers back here, the other thing is a series of retractors. It's almost like an evolution. This giant retractor was one of the first ones that we would have gotten in the past. This one is pulling down and locking. It takes an enormous amount of tension to pull it down. This became a problem, and the physical size is a problem, and the way that the cable comes in. It works fine, more or less, if it's mounted this way and it's straight down. But as soon as you need to maybe mount it on the ceiling, or it needs to be at some kind of an angle, it becomes a problem. The other thing is, if it pulls back too fast and you've got this plastic grommet at the bottom, between that and the cold weather, you'll come back and find that this grommet is broken. When the grommet breaks, the cable rubs along the metal, and then you'll see broken cables. This one, much lighter the way this operates. Keep in mind that when the cable's being pulled out, you don't want an enormous amount of tension coming back. Sometimes this is the way they came. So how the cable is getting attached here, did it come with a grommet? Is a grommet the right size for the cable? Originally, a lot of these used to be used for the hoses at the gas stations. So the gas station hose is like this big, but the cable's only this big. It's a bit of an evolution. I think what had happened originally was there were very few chargers. Now, as time gone on, we're getting much more of a market for it, and people are looking to see this as an item to be able to sell. So again, we've got a bit of an angle, still pretty bulky. This has got a plastic grommet here as well. So sometimes the manufacturers have the best of intentions, but they don't have real world information and they don't realize what's going to happen. And sometimes we wouldn't have realized originally either, but we see them out in the field and we know they get broken. And now we say, oh, this grommet makes a difference. Oh, this tension is causing a problem. Oh, I can't get the cable in here. Oh, this isn't swiveling properly. So we're able to tell the manufacturers what to do. We ordered a bunch of these. We talked about where the mounting hole should be. We talked about even the screws. If the screws are not stainless steel, they will rust. It seems like a small thing, but it happens. And then even if you have to open it, it's a problem, or the screw might break. There's a lot of tension in here. So we had these done with stainless steel screws, something more compact, a little less weight. This one's got metal here, so it can take it when it comes back. There was a series of grommets to be able to accommodate various sizes of cables. So this was very helpful. This one is similar. Another manufacturer sent this to us. This is actually pretty good. The tension is even less. It's a real balancing act. If you're using the spring round arrangement, the tension has to be not so much that it's pulling on the cable, but if it doesn't pull the cable back properly, well, then that's a problem. Some of these are just far too heavy to even imagine what the box was like when you got 25 of these in a box. You couldn't almost lift it. We had to take them out of the boxes to be able to move them. So having things be lighter and easier to handle are a good thing as well. So I just wanted you to be able to see that in addition to sort of the functionality and the electrical part and the software part and everything, I think we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer with some of these. I want to show you our ChargePoint charger. This is gravity. There's a counterweight inside. You can see how slowly it comes back. This is counterweighted perfectly to match this. So if you take a look here, you'll see that when this is retracted, it's barely touching the ground over here. And when we put this back into the holster, nothing is on the floor. The cable is able to pull out of its full length. This positioning becomes very important because it's possible that you'll restrict the distance that the cable can come out, which means you've lost 3 or 4 or 5 feet of the cable because the retractor simply won't allow it to come out. So it's very important to manage that. And a lot of times the manufacturer will actually give you an indication. If it's their retractor and their charger, sometimes they'll tell you how far along to put this. So pay attention to it. It seems like a minor item, but it's not a minor item. We're talking about usefulness and functionality. This placement is very important. That being said, ChargePoint has an advantage in that they make this whole piece all at one time. It fits the charger. I would say that this arrangement for this size of cable is ideal, and this has been here a long time. It's also simple. It's just a roller and a weight. There's not a lot of things to break in it. So it lasts a long time. We've had this one for years. We got a slightly higher one so that we could pull the cables out further, and it works quite well. This is part of the testing. We had this long before we had any of this arrangement here. It works quite well. So again, just a chance to focus on the different kind of retractors, different kind of systems, different ways things are working in the real world. We provide this information openly. It's not a secret here. So if it seems like a good thing and you are a manufacturer or even an installer and you're looking for that kind of a solution, you want some help. Some of these we even keep here. If you want to buy retractors from us, it's not impossible. It's not our main goal here, but we're happy to help whatever we can do to make the industry better and to make things more reliable and have a better user experience. That's the goal. Thanks for poking in. You can find us at our website, signatureelectric.ca. What do they always say? Just subscribe below here. So if you subscribe, more than anything, it means that you'll get the information slightly ahead of everybody else. Give us some feedback. If something else that you're interested in or you're liking or not liking something we do, that kind of feedback helps us to really work better on the channel and to get the information that you need. We'll all work together towards charger reliability and make EVs standard for everybody.